श्रेयो धर्मादिलक्षणम्
श्रेयो धर्मादिलक्षणम्
स एव जीवलोकस्य
स एव जीवलोकस्य
माया मोहितचेतसः
मायामोहितचेतसः
विधत्से स्वेन वीर्येण
विधत्से स्वेन वीर्येण
श्रेयो धर्मादिलक्षणम्
श्रेयो धर्मादिलक्षणम्
स एव जीवलोकस्य
स एव जीवलोकस्य
मायामोहितचेतसः
मायामोहितचेतसः
विधत्से स्वेन वीर्येण
विधत्से स्वेन वीर्येण
श्रेयो धर्माधिलक्षणम्
श्रेयो धर्माधिलक्षणम् स एव जीवलोकस्य
मायामोहितचेतसः
मायामोहितचेतसः
विधत्से स्वेन वीर्येण
विधत्से स्वेन वीर्येण
श्रेयो धर्मादिलक्षणम्
श्रेयो धर्मादिलक्षणम्
स एव जीवलोकस्य
स एव जीवलोकस्य
मायामोहितचेतसः
मायामोहितचेतसः
विधत्से स्वेन वीर्येण
विधत्से स्वेन वीर्येण
श्रेयो धर्मादिलक्षणम्
श्रेयो धर्माधिलक्षणम्
स एव जीवलोकस्य
स एव जीवलोकस्य
मायामोहितचेतसः
मायामोहितचेतसः
विधत्से स्वेन वीर्येण
विधत्से स्वेन वीर्येण
श्रेयो धर्मादिलक्षणम्
श्रेयो धर्मादिलक्षणम्
स एव जीवलोकस्य
स एव जीवलोकस्य
मायामोहितचेतसः
मायामोहितचेतसः
विधत्से स्वेन वीर्येण
विधत्से स्वेन वीर्येण
श्रेयो धर्मादिलक्षणम्
श्रेयो
धर्मादिलक्षणम्
स एव जीवलोकस्य
स एव जीवलोकस्य
मायामोहितचेतसः
मायामोहितचेतसः
विधत्से स्वेन वीर्येण
विधत्से स्वेन वीर्येण
श्रेयो धर्मादिलक्षणम्
श्रेयो धर्माधिलक्षणम्
स एव जीवलोकस्य
स एव जीवलोकस्य
मायामोहितचेतसः
मायामोहितचेतसः
विधत्से स्वेन वीर्येण
विधत्से स्वेन वीर्येण
श्रेयो धर्मादिलक्षणम्
श्रेयो धर्मादिलक्षणम्
स एव जीवलोकस्य मायामोहितचेतसः विधत्से स्वेन वीर्येण
श्रेयधर्मादिलक्षणम्
श्रेयो धर्मादिलक्षणम्
ऑनलाइन स एव जीवलोकस्य
मायामोहितचेतसः
विधत्से स्वेन वीर्येण हरे कृष्ण श्रेयो धर्मादिलक्षणम् स एव जीवलोकस्य मायामोहितचेतसः विधत्से स्वेन वीर्येण श्रेयो धर्माधिलक्षणम् स एव जीवलोकस्य मायामोहितचेतसः विधत्से स्वेन वीर्येण श्रेयो धर्माधिलक्षणम् स एव जीवलोकस्य मायामोहितचेतसः Vidatse svena viryena
Shreyo dharmadilakshanam.
Synonyms. Saha,
Saha,
that transcendence.
That transcendence.
Eva,
Eva,
certainly.
certainly.
Jivalokasya,
Jivalokasya,
of the conditioned living beings.
of the conditioned living beings.
Maya mohita,
Maya mohita,
captivated by the illusory energy.
captivated by the illusory energy.
Chetasaha,
Chetasaha,
by the heart.
By the heart.
Vidhatse,
Vidatse,
execute.
Execute.
Svena,
Svena,
by your own.
by your own.
Viryena,
Viryena,
influence.
influence.
Shreyaha,
Shreyaha,
ultimate good.
unlimited.
Dharma adi,
Dharma adi.
four principles of liberation.
Four principles of liberation.
Lakshanam,
Lakshanam,
characterized by.
characterized by.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Hey, Srila Prabhupada.
Translation. And yet, though you are beyond the purview of the material energy, you execute the four principles of liberation characterized by religion and so on for the ultimate good of the conditioned souls. Translation with repetition. And yet,
And yet,
And yet,
though you are beyond
though you are beyond
the purview of material energy,
the purview of material energy,
the purview of the material energy,
the
the
purview of
the
material
material
energy,
energy,
you execute
you execute
the four principles of liberation
the four principles of liberation,
characterized by religion
characterized by religion,
and so on
and so on,
for the ultimate good
for
for ultimate good
of the conditioned souls.
of the conditioned souls.
The personality of God purport. The personality of Godhead Sri Krishna, out of his causeless mercy, descends on the manifested world without being influenced by the material modes of nature. He is eternally beyond the material manifestations. He descends out of his causeless mercy only to reclaim the fallen souls who are captivated by the illusory energy. They are attacked by the material energy and they want to enjoy her under false pretexts. Although, in a sense, the living entity is unable to enjoy. One is eternally the servitor of the Lord, and when he forgets his position, he thinks of enjoying the material world, but factually he is an illusion. The Lord descends to eradicate this false sense of enjoyment and thus reclaim conditioned souls back to God, back to Godhead. That is the all-merciful nature of the Lord for the fallen souls. Thus ends a wonderful transcendental purport. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Namavom Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Te Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. It's a wonderful verse where every word has deep meaning and is perhaps a class by itself. Every single word in this verse is like that. So let us take a closer look at the verse that we chanted so many times today morning. Saeva jiva lokasya maya mohita chetasaha vidhatse svena viryena shreyo dharmadi lakshanam. So here, saha, the word saha, has been translated as that transcendence. We have seen in many verses before also that in the preceding verses where Arjuna's prayers are being spoken, he has emphasized the fact that the Supreme Lord is beyond the touch of material nature, that is beyond any material contamination. So here the very first word is saha and translated as that transcendence. Transcendence means beyond material nature, completely spiritual, transcendental. That transcendence, eva, certainly. So now there is another important word, certainly. Jiva lokasya, of the conditioned living beings. So this word or the phrase jiva lokasya or jiva loka also appears multiple times in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, and it has been translated consistently as the conditioned living beings, jiva loka. That is, all the living entities that are in the material universe, the cosmic realm, material manifestation, that are conditioned. They are called jiva loka. So jiva lokasya. So there is something about jiva lokasya that the Lord descends to remove. And what is that? Maya mohita chetasaha. Maya mohita chetasaha is a very, it is a phrase that we should remember by heart. It has very, very significant word or phrase that represents our consciousness currently, the conditioned consciousness. Maya mohita chetasa. It is a little poetic, but it is also, just like you say, a Krishna conscious person. This is the opposite of that. This is the Maya conscious person, which represents all of us. Maya mohita, captivated by the illusory energy which is Maya. Chetasaha, deep in the core of the heart. So very deep in our heart, we are completely captivated by the illusory energy of the Lord. And that is our state, Maya mohita chetasaha. And who are these people who are captivated like this? Jiva lokasya, Jiva loka. So all the living entities that are conditioned, their very definition of condition means that they are Maya mohita chetasaha. So for such people, what does the Lord do? Vidhatse svena viryena shreya dharmadi lakshanam. So while the living entities are trying to exploit the material nature and looking for short-term enjoyment, short-term pleasure, the Supreme Lord, out of His causeless mercy, He descends and does something which is for their ultimate benefit. Shreya. So the word Shreya also we have seen in Bhagavad Gita. Shreya. What is the opposite of Shreya? Preya. So here the word Shreya has been used, ultimate good. So for their ultimate good, even though the living entities are not interested in their ultimate good at all, so they actually do not deserve any ultimate good because they are not interested, they are not asking for it. They are just caught up, all of us, they means us. We are all caught up in the web of trying to enjoy preya, the immediate pleasure, what we consider to be immediate good. But the Supreme Lord descends to execute by His own sweet will, Svena. The word Svena has also come in the very first verse of Bhagavatam. Dhamna Svena Nirasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi. So Svena, self-sufficient, there it is translated as self-sufficient. Here it is translated as by your own. So the Supreme Lord is not coming down because He is bound to come down like us. Because we are trying to enjoy the material nature, we are bound to come down. And in this material world, we are conditioned. Maya mohita chetasaha. By the Maya mohita chetasaha, we are one of the Jiva loka. But the Supreme Lord, when He comes, He is completely independent. He is self-sufficient. And by His own internal potency, He descends into this material world and executes activities that are for the ultimate good of the conditioned living entities through the dharma adilakshanam, through the dharma artha kama moksha, for the four principles of religion, for their ultimate good. So the translation is, and yet, although you are beyond the purview of the material energy, you execute the four principles of liberation characterized by religion and so on for the ultimate good of the conditioned souls. So here the translation is starting by and yet, although those words are not there in the, if you see the verse itself, those words are and yet is not there in the verse. There is no such, there are no words like that. But it's there in the translation because Prabhupada is trying to create continuity with the previous prayers, the previous verses, the previous two verses in which Arjuna has prayed in a certain way. And as I said, he has emphasized the transcendental nature of the Lord, where He is completely in control of the material energy. So let us remember the context in which these prayers are happening. Does anybody remember what is triggering Arjuna to make these wonderful prayers all of a sudden? Yes, take the mic, please.
Like Ashwatthama released the Brahmastra.
And then Ashwatthama releases Brahmastra. Because of that, what happens?
I think Arjuna got afraid
Yes. But
And-
why did he get afraid?
because
What
it's-
is Arjuna does not know at this point that Ashwatthama has released Brahmastra. There is something else that he experiences that causes him to become afraid. He does not know at this point that Ashwatthama has released Brahmastra. Okay, anybody else? What does Arjuna experience? Burning, yes. There is a blinding light and severe heat that is coming from all directions. It is not just that it is coming from one direction. Then you can see, oh, something is coming from there. It is not like that. There is a dazzling light that is lighting up all the directions, and there is heat, extreme heat, that is approaching him from all the directions. And that is at that point that Arjuna considers that his life is in danger, and he begins to offer prayers. And in his prayers, let's just take a very brief look at the two prayers that he has offered already. Arjuna uvacha Krishna Krishna Mahabaho Bhaktanam Abhayankara Tvam Eko Dahyamananam Apavargosi Samstritehe. So he is glorifying the Lord because there is a danger to his life, and danger to his life is coming from burning heat that is coming from all the directions. But he is not praying to the Lord that make this heat go away. He is actually comparing this heat to the fire of material existence. So he is understanding that this heat, yes, it is burning, my body is feeling the heat, but actually this heat is representative of the fire, the blazing fire of material existence. So just look at the intelligence of the person at the time of facing the danger. He is not saying, Krishna, please take away this danger. He is not saying that. He is realizing that this danger that is appearing to be heat is actually not, it's just a symptom. Even if the heat is not there, there is still heat, because the blazing fire of material existence is always surrounding us. And it is just represented right now by this heat. So he is glorifying the Lord as somebody who can extinguish the Dahyamananam, the flames of material miseries, who can extinguish the flames of material miseries. And people who are burning in the flames of material miseries can find the path of liberation in such a person. And he's also saying that he instills fearlessness because he's sensing danger and he's feeling fearful. It is not that he's not feeling fearful, but even in the state of fearfulness, he is able to understand that this is a material fearfulness, and the correct way to overcome the material fearfulness is actually to take shelter of the Lord and not ask him to simply remove the current danger, material danger which is there, but to once and for all eliminate all the material miseries by showing the path of liberation. Another interesting part in this verse is that that Arjuna is talking about the fact that the person needs to find the path of liberation in Krishna. It is not that Krishna is simply by magic, he's showing something. Krishna has the path. He can show the path, but the person who is burning in the flames of material existence must find that path, must take that step to find that path. But if somebody is serious about finding that path, they can certainly find it in Krishna. Why that is so? It is because Krishna is completely transcendental. If a person is bound up, he cannot free himself. A bound person cannot free himself because the very means of freeing himself is also bound. Therefore, the only way in which a person can be bound is by somebody who is actually free, and that is the Supreme Lord. And the next verse he is saying that he is completely transcendental to the material energy. So Arjuna is facing the heat coming from all the directions, and he's saying, but Krishna, you are expanded in all the directions. So actually nothing can be coming without the will of Krishna. So whatever inexplicable heat is coming from all the directions, actually that heat is completely under the control of Krishna. So he's glorifying him like that. How is he saying? Sakshad Ishvaraha. Sakshad Ishvara has been translated as is a controller of the material, of all the energies. And Prakrite Paraha. Prakrite Paraha is transcendental to material energy. And then next line, he casts away the effects of material energy by the dint of spiritual potency. So because Krishna has got his spiritual potency, he is able to remove the effects of the material energy in all his devotees. So Krishna has been, if you see in the two verses, Krishna has been depicted, has been glorified as a person who is completely transcendental, and yet he is completely in charge of the material energies, and is able to extricate people who are caught in the web or caught in the flames of the material miseries, and they want to get out. So he has been contrasted. He is spiritual and there is material. And therefore the verse today is starting with and yet. And yet, so what is the exact verse? The translation says, and yet, though you are beyond the purview of material energy, you execute the four. Actually, so Krishna has no need for it to do this. So there is an aspect of Krishna's mercy that's being talked about in this verse, because there is actually, he is completely spiritual. He has nothing to do with the material world, and yet he sees that there are individuals who are suffering in the material world, and he executes the four principles of liberation just for the ultimate good of the conditioned souls. Let's take a little bit closer look at the specific words that have been used. So we just saw in brief a little bit, one more just layer of this. So in the first verse, he's talking about instilling fearlessness, the fact that he's almighty, and he's able to instill the fearlessness because he's almighty. And if you see, this instilling of fearlessness is nothing but an act of causeless mercy. Because a person may be very powerful, but that does not mean that he's going to instill fearlessness in you. That does not mean that you become worthy of his protection. In the material world, if you want to become worthy of somebody's protection, you have to pay them protection money. Correct? What is it called? Hafta. Is it not? If somebody, unless it is their job and they're taking money from the government, or they're getting a security person who's in security or the military, they are undoubtedly protecting all of us, right? We are safely, we are able to sit here because there is somebody out there defending the territory. But these people who are defending the territory certainly are doing that. It's a great sacrifice that they make, a great danger to themselves, but they get paid for it. Of course, if somebody pays us the same amount, we probably would not take the same danger. So it is not to make it cheap. But still, you have to pay in the material world, unless there is, it's a give and take. There is something you have to give in order to take something. Or if it is not the authorized persons, there are unauthorized persons, they also are willing to offer protection. But to those peoples, you have to directly pay them money, hafta, or protection money. Everybody in material world is able to offer, even at home, parents offer protection to children. But there is a desire, there is an attachment, and there is an expectation of reciprocation, of affection. If a child is not very affectionate towards the parents, if the child is not very obedient, then the parents are not so willing to offer their protection, although sometimes they do it, but they don't do it very happily. And at the first instance, okay, no, you are 18 years old, get out of the house. At least in the Western countries, that is a norm. Once the child reaches a certain age, they are asked to leave the house and make arrangements for themselves. So this act of instilling fearlessness in a minute atomic spirit soul, that is, and there are billions and trillions of such jivatmas in the cosmic manifestation, the spiritual and material worlds. So even the material world, there are just countless living entities. And the Supreme Lord is Almighty. Where is a need for him to say that this 900 millionth, 993rd 1,000, that particular living entity, oh, you are experiencing fear and you are coming to me for protection. All right, here is your fearlessness. What is the need? He is Svena, already self-sufficient. There is no need for him. Whether you are suffering or not suffering, Krishna is still enjoying. He is completely self-sufficient. And yet he does it. Therefore, it is an act of causeless mercy. You will see this theme in today's verse also, that Arjuna is actually begging for the Lord for mercy. And then you see that fearlessness is one part, but the fearlessness at this moment, if it goes away, still very next moment it will come back. Why? Because the person is conditioned. These conditioned living entities, they are constantly entangled in the web of miseries, of the 4 kinds of miseries. What are the miseries? 4 kinds of miseries. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi. What are 3 kinds of miseries? Yeah, Tapatrayam. And what are the 5 kinds of miseries? Pavarga, yes, Pavarga. So there are, all the living entities are caught in this 3, 4, 5 categories of miseries. And so even if at a point in time there is a protection that is offered, next moment, because these miseries are constantly coming, there is no way out for the living entity. So the Supreme Lord, out of his causeless mercy, is giving a path for liberation. And that is actually what Arjuna is praying for. So he's not praying that this particular light that is coming or heat that is coming, I want to be excused from this particular heat. He's actually praying that even if you protect me from this heat, tomorrow there will be another heat. Day after tomorrow there will be something else. Give me a permanent solution to this. So, and Krishna is a person particularly who can award that kind of permanent solution. So he's glorifying him that way. Another act of mercy that you see in the previous verse that we saw last week, was that, so it's actually a repetition of this. Cast away the effects of material energy by the dint of your spiritual potency. So by the spiritual potency of the Lord, when somebody takes shelter of that spiritual potency, immediately Krishna is able to cast away the effects of the material energy. And then in today's verse, executing the 4 principles of liberation characterized by religion and so on for the ultimate good of the conditioned souls. This is the process by which Krishna is helping the living entities overcome the effects of material energy. So how is the Krishna, so in the last 2 verses, it has been explained that Krishna, if somebody finds, the first verse says, if somebody is trying to find, then Krishna can award. Then second verse is saying that by the spiritual potency, there's like one level deeper information, right? By spiritual, how does he award? What is the path? Spiritual potency. So by spiritual potency, he can do that. And today there is yet one more detail that that Arjuna is glorifying, and how he does it. It is by the 4 principles of liberation characterized by religion for the ultimate good of the conditioned souls. So it's executing these. So if you see here, Arjuna's prayers are in the mood of invoking the mercy of the Lord. And as we go further, we should just keep this in mind as what is the process of prayer. The process of prayer, sometimes it is seen that so Kunti Maharani's prayer also it comes, that persons who are going after good birth, good parentage, opulence, knowledge, and beautiful appearance, for such persons who are trying to go after this, for them, sincere feeling of prayer does not come. Sincere feeling of prayer is not coming. Why sincere feeling of prayer is not coming? For those whose primary goal is to go after material opulence, good parentage, etc. It is because their prayer is colored by actually their desire to enjoy here. So when somebody is praying, there is a background desire that is very, very dominant, which is very difficult to suppress at the time of prayer. Because we have got the various desires that we have to enjoy in this material world, because we think there is room for enjoyment here. We have not exhausted our enjoyment propensity here. Even after coming to Krishna consciousness, even after taking up devotional service, there is always a hope that in tomorrow's exam I will score 99% or 100%. Even though today I did not do well. Or tomorrow's interview I will ace and I will get double 100% hike. Or in some other way, maybe so far in my interactions with people around me, I have not received of my wonderful, tremendous talent and abilities. But maybe if I behave in a certain different way, I will get such glorification and I can be satisfied in that. Puja, pratishtha. So all these desires are so strong and they guide every activity that we do. Almost everything. It is very, very difficult to separate ourselves from that desire. If we just introspect, we will see that these are extremely strong and we are not even aware of it. Because these are so strong and we revel in these desires, it is not even that we are trying to suppress them. We revel in it. When we revel in it, what happens are these desires for enjoyment form the background in our mind, and when we are offering prayers, actually the prayers are only lip service. We may pray to the Lord, please give me Krishna Bhakti. Maybe there is such a Krishna Prema, right? There are 10 offenses that are chanted. The last one is the highest goal of life, which is Krishna Prema. But that is only offered by lip service. Why? Because Krishna Prema, by very definition, it means no sense gratification. There is a wonderful verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita that defines what is prema. Does anybody know this verse? And before that? Atmendriya Preeti. So Atmendriya Preeti and Krishnendriya Preeti. This is a contrast that is drawn in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Atmendriya Preeti is called Kama or lust. And Krishnendriya Preeti is called Prema. It is not even called Krishna Prema. Prema. The very word Prema means Krishnendriya Preeti. That is the definition in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So you see a lot of times in movies, in Bollywood movies, etc., that there is talk about Prem Katha, like that there will be titles of movies and they will talk about Prem between opposite gender, man and woman. But that is actually Kama. It is Kama Katha, not Prema Katha. Prema means only love for Krishna. Love. The word Prema means love, translated as love in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And the definition of love is desiring to satisfy the senses of Krishna. Desiring. Actually, you don't know how to satisfy the senses of Krishna. But when you have that desire, when the intense desire is there to satisfy Krishna's senses, that is called love. And when there is a desire to satisfy Atma Indriya Preeti, our own senses, when there is a desire, because that also you cannot satisfy. Actually, Krishna's material energy only satisfies our senses also. So, that desire to satisfy our senses, that is called lust or kama. So, when we are so strongly having these desires of Atma Indriya Preeti, our mind is covered by this lust. And at that time, sincere prayer is very difficult. So, this is something we should realize, because sometimes we think that we are offering prayers, and yet as part of the sadhana, we are required to offer those prayers. But even as we are offering the prayers, we should recognize and see that weakness. We have to recognize that weakness, so that we may endeavor to overcome that. And the overcoming of that starts with begging for mercy. Because we see, there is in the chanting japa round also, there is one module, one of the rounds is for Kripa Apeksha, begging for the mercy. I have tried it many times to feelingly chant and expect mercy, but it's very, very difficult. Very difficult. And you see that there are obstacles in begging for the mercy. If you just observe yourself begging for mercy, the first thing that comes out is, actually, Unless you are in a deep distress at that particular point in time, or in deep danger, or some major health crisis, actually you have no motivation to beg for mercy. Everything is going on well, no? What is the big mercy that I need? Please, mercy, be merciful unto me. But for what? For what is not clear at that point. You have to forcefully bring the what. What do I want the mercy for? At that point, right? It has to be forcefully brought. It is not that the moment you say the prayers for mercy, immediately mercy manifests, or the desire to have mercy does not manifest. So therefore, when there is a prayer where mercy is being begged for, we have to pay that with deep attention. How is he begging for that mercy, and what mood is he? So just see how Arjuna is connecting the desire for mercy with what is happening to him. He is sensing danger. He is not begging for mercy to be protected from that particular danger. He is connecting that and saying, oh, I should anyway be begging for your mercy for liberation. That is the mercy that I should beg for. So like that, we should always have in our mind this knowledge or awareness that we are always burning in these flames of material miseries. And therefore, when a danger is coming, it is simply a visualization of that. Normally that burning material desire or burning material miseries are not manifest before us. We are unable to see it. So when any danger comes, when any trouble comes, even the slightest trouble, it could just be as simple as when you're walking, you may miss a step, right? What is it called? Staggering. Suddenly you stagger. Maybe you hit a stone or something. Just slightly miss a step. When you're about to fall and you hold yourself back. What happens at the time? Suddenly the hair on the body may stand up and your attention suddenly increases because you're sensing danger. But at that time, at that instant, have we trained ourselves to think of Krishna? We should. And at that time, we should consider that this danger is a manifestation of the dangers that I'm facing at every step. I'm already, although it's not manifest to me. So it is not that we are praying for that protection from that particular instance, but that is a reminder at how actually I'm in danger every moment. So there are three things in this verse that we have already discussed, but I'll just go over it a little bit more. Jiva Loka, Maya Mohita Chetasaha, and Dharma. So let's just take a closer look at this. We have already seen that Jiva Loka means conditioned living entities. And what is this exactly, conditioned living entities? What exactly does that mean? Previously in a Bhagavatam class, Prabhu had explained that, what conditioned means. Does anybody remember? What is the explanation of conditioned? Some examples he had given. Door. What about the door? Treated. Yes. Yeah, treated in accustomed to the foreign environment. Yes. So conditioned is when the key word being foreign. Very good that you remembered that. Because spirit soul, it does not belong to the material realm. Spirit soul is part and parcel of Krishna, belongs to the spiritual realm. And yet we are here in this material world. This is a foreign environment for us. But we have been here since time immemorial. And the contact with matter for time immemorial has conditioned us, just as a wood that has been treated in the external, exposed to the elements, becomes treated, and then it's able to last in that for a very long time. So we have made very elaborate plans for us to last here for many, many more lifetimes, and we are fully settled here. This is called conditioned. Srila Prabhupada has given a lecture on this verse, and in that verse he gives two more meanings to this word conditioned, two more flavors of the meanings. One, he says, is it is under a certain condition. Conditioned means that you live within a certain condition. For example, if you want to start flying, can you fly? No. If you try to fly, what will happen? Probably no longer live, right? You'll break your bones. Or especially if this has been tried, correct? In 17th century, people have tried to put some wings on them and go to some hill and try to jump off and try to flap like a bird, right? They've all tried that. We have studied in school. Um, so they could not live. Many people died like that. Our living here itself is conditioned, and there are certain conditions that you need to meet in order to continue living. If you want to say, the other day, Pandang Prabhu was explaining that if you wanted to say go to the moon or go to other planets, it is not possible simply to build a spacecraft, a rocket or something, and sit inside and go. That is not the way to go there, because our existence here in this planetary system has been upon the condition that we shall stay here. If you want to go to a different planetary system, you have to meet the conditions for entry for that planetary system. There is a entry process, just as for coming from other country to the US, there are visa requirements, conditions of visa that need to be met. Similarly, when we want to go from here to other planetary systems, there are conditions that need to be met. So in other words, our existence here in this world is contingent upon certain conditions being met. Even this human body that we have got is contingent upon certain conditions being met. If we do not utilize this human life properly, what will happen? Animal life. Even in this world, we will get animal life, right? Or plant life, fish life, something like that. So this is one meaning of condition that Srila Prabhupada is explaining. It's very interesting. But this conditioning or this conditioned existence that we have, what is the reason for this? Because originally we are Mame Vamsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatanaha Manashasthani Indriyani Prakritisthani Kashtati. So Mame Vamsho, Krishna is saying, we are all Amsha of Krishna, part and parcel of Krishna, and our original constitutional position is to be completely spiritual. And spirit is not inhibited by matter. Spirit is sarvagataha, can go anywhere. And yet we are conditioned to stay here. We cannot go to the moon if we want. But spirit is sarvagataha. So what is the reason for this constraint, the bondage that has been placed upon us? We are tightly bound. Our degree of freedom is very, very limited. So what is the reason for this being so limited? For example, even in a human body, even here, not all of us can do what somebody else can do, right? Somebody can cook extremely well. Somebody can do Rangoli very well. Yesterday we had this nice Rangoli competition, and there were some individual who had such wonderful talent for Rangoli. If I were to try to do that Rangoli, nothing will come, right? I'm bound. I'm bound to not have the talent. I'm bound to have some other talent, or maybe no talent. But what is the reason for this bondage? Prabhupada explains that the purpose of reason for this bondage is Maya Mohita Chetasaha. It's because deep in the core of the heart, our knowledge of our constitutional position has been covered by the illusory energy of the Lord. So Maya is the illusory energy of the Lord. Mohitaha is captivated. So our intelligence or our awareness of ourself, who we are, Mamai Vamsho, that we are the fact that we are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, that has been covered by the illusory energy of the Lord. It has been captivated by the illusory energy of the Lord. So even though we are Nitya Krishna Dasa, Jivera Swarupaha, Nitya Krishna Dasa, we are eternal servant of Krishna, but that knowledge has been completely captivated by the illusory energy of the Lord. And what is happening? So now we are in the second part, Maya Mohita Chesa. I had said there are three parts, right? The first was Jivaloka, which is conditioned. The second is Maya Mohita Chetasaha. And the third part I'll come to in a minute, and with that we'll stop. Though in the second part, this Maya Mohita Chetasaha, we are having these unlimited desires because we have forgotten that our goal is to serve Krishna. So instead of Krishna Indriya Preeti, we are indulging in Atma Indriya Preeti. Correct? So, and the way to dovetail our desires into Krishna Indriya Preeti sometimes is presented before us. If we are fortunate, if some of us who are fortunate, many people have no idea about this, and as devotees it is our duty to present this information to as many people as possible. But sometimes, even for ourselves, when this information is presented, that your goal of life is Krishna Indriya Preeti, what happens? We are not always able to take it up at that moment because there are other filters that we have got. So there is a prayer from Prahlad Maharaj where it is said that there are some individuals for whom, who are so materially engrossed in Atma Indriya Priti, that even if information about Krishna being the ultimate good, Shreya, is presented to that person, they are not in a state of mind to accept or listen at that point in time. They are not able to do it. And that is an extreme that has been shown, because Prahlad Maharaj's father was like that, right? So he's actually telling about his own father. But there is a Hiranyakashipu in all of us, and that's preventing us from fully taking up to Krishna consciousness. Because if we take up to Krishna consciousness seriously, there is the Maya Mohita Chetasaha is telling, Are Buddhuram, if you take up to Krishna, Atmendriya Priti is completely gone. Who will give you the Priti then? What happens to all your senses? You are not going to enjoy. So be careful. Just put up the pretense of being in Krishna consciousness. Put the tick mark so somebody doesn't catch you. And from time to time you can taste a little bit of that Krishna consciousness from very like licking the honey bottle from outside. There is still actually there is no taste licking the honey bottle from outside. But maybe, okay, it's honey after all. It's better than licking the bottle of some pungent, spoiled, something else. So like that you may think. But actually we are not tasting Krishna consciousness, because there is this strong force that is holding us back. So the depth to which we are captivated by that material energy is difficult to fathom. And so the verse that Prahlad Maharaj says, Matirna Krishne Parata Satova Mito Abhipadhyeta Grahavritanam. So Grahavritanam is a vrata that we have all taken. What is a Grahavrata? So Grahastha and Grahavrata, there are different terms. We have heard about Graha Medhi and Grahastha, right? But here there is a contrast between Grahavrata and Grahastha. The reason why we are unable to take up to Krishna consciousness is Grahavrata. The Grahavrata means the vow. Like we have taken vow, right? We have taken vow of the vow of Ekadashi Vrata, that we will not eat grains and beans on the day of Ekadashi for the rest of my life. We take the vow of chanting, that every day we will chant so many fixed rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And Lord Chaitanya says that this is the highest vrata that a person can take, highest vrata. What is the vrata that we actually take, which is stronger than, in our mind, that vrata is stronger than the vrata of chanting even, although we chant. But this vrata is called Graha Vratanam. Graha Vrata means I will enjoy in my family life. This vrata, the vow of enjoying in family life, is so deep. And this family life is not just wife and children, it is also parents. Because we are part of their family, their Graha Vrata. We are participating, helping them execute their Graha Vrata. So as children, we have helped our parents execute their Graha Vrata. And as parents, we also take up the Graha Vrata and expect all the family members to cooperate in that. When the cooperation is missing, what happens? The Graha Vrata appears to be broken and we are in deep distress. Majority of the current day miseries that are experienced by householders is actually because of this problem with Graha Vrata only. It is not that they're physically in danger, right? There is no Brahmastra that somebody has shot at us. There is no blazing fire that is coming from all directions. It's not happening. Poverty is also not there today. There is no poverty to speak of. Majority, it is governments all over the world are taking care of the food. In India, for the last 3 years, since the time COVID has hit, how much ration has been given free? Even persons who are poor, they get rice and grains are available for free in ration shops. Poverty is not there. Physical security is not a problem. So what is causing this misery? It is actually the danger to Graha Vrata and the anticipated danger to Graha Vrata. When children don't study well, parents get anxious. Why? Who will marry this boy or girl who's not even got some A+ in whatever? who's not scored like 1500 in SAT, 1600 in SAT, who will marry this boy? How will he enjoy his Grahavrata? How will this boy enjoy his Grahavrata? Not only parents are about their own Grahavrata, it is to propagate generation after generation how Grahavrata will be protected. This is actually the goal of our life. The householder's life is not only how to maintain our Grahavrata, but how to propagate the Grahavrata. So Grahavratana Matirna Krishne. It is not possible, they are not compatible. So we have to place a higher emphasis on the Hare Krishna Mahamantra Nama Japa Vrata than Grahavrata. Unless we are able to give a higher importance to devotional service, to the aspiring to please Krishna, unless we are able to place higher importance to that, Grahavrata will always seem bigger. It will always seem bigger. It's very, very difficult to overcome. And this is why we have to take it seriously. Sometimes we think that by regular attendance on a weekly basis in Bhagavatam class and by taking up the fixed round of chanting, we are on the path of progress. Yes, no doubt. We are definitely on the path of progress. But the speed of that is inhibited by our own doing. Why? Because we are not serious about placing Hare Krishna Mahamantra Nama Japa Vrata higher than Grahavrata. In our heart, deep within our heart, Grahavrata is higher. So that is why Krishna is sending his confidential servants in the form of Srila Prabhupada and all the Vaishnavas. That is to re-establish Dharma. Because the moment Grahavrata becomes stronger than Nama Japavrata, that becomes Dharmasya Glanihi. Dharmasya Glanihi means fall down of, or what is the exact word? Dharmasya Glani, rise of irreligion. Before that, the contamination of religion, or what is the exact term Prabhupada uses in the translation? Rise of irreligion, but yes, but there is also a whenever and wherever there is a decline in religion. So decline in religion, dharmasya glanihi, that means people all over the world, formerly it was not like that. In Satya Yuga, in Treta Yuga, Grahavrata was not higher than at that time, whatever was the process for liberation. That process of liberation, people are aware that it is higher importance. But now in Kali Yuga, that is completely gone. So because of that, the Supreme Lord comes, because we have all so deep in Dharmasya Glani. Glani has happened. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord appeared as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and is propagating Namo Mahavadanyaya. Freely he is distributing. So what is this? With this one last thing I will stop. Mercy, grace, munificence. These are some terms that if we understand the meaning, we can appreciate the slokas the prayers that we are offering better. What is mercy? So we sing in Guru Puja. What is our exact word for mercy that we are singing? Ha ha Prabhu Korodaya Deho More Padochaya. Ha ha Prabhu Korodaya Deho More Padochaya. So Korodaya, this is begging for mercy. What it means is that I am actually not eligible for your mercy. I have placed Grahavrata higher than serving you. I am such a fallen person that my Grahavrata is more important than serving you. I am not eligible for your mercy at all, but please still be merciful to me, although I am not worthy. So mercy means begging for relief from your condition, even though you are not worthy to be relieved of your condition. That is the meaning of mercy. And that is the merciful aspect of the Supreme Lord. Grace, His divine grace, we say, right? Grace. Grace means when something is given free. You're not even asking for it. You're not even begging for it. But it's simply given to you. Like yesterday, we had this Makar Sankranti, and everybody got one kodakatte. Right? I don't know what it was called, modak. You call it modak in Hindi? I think that is what it was. I'm not sure. But there was a sweet, right? With the filling inside. So Did anybody sitting doing kirtan or think that there'll be a Kodakatai, it'll be available? No. But you got it. Nobody asked for it. Nobody begged for it. You still get. That is grace. So this Hare Krishna Mahamantra that we are getting, we don't even know to ask for it. But it is given. It's the highest thing. There is nothing higher than that. It's the highest vrata. It is being given. That is grace. Grace comes from munificence. You are given grace. He is given grace. He is given grace. Matajis are given grace. Everybody is given grace. This grace is coming because of the munificence of the Supreme Lord, and that is manifested in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate. Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvashe Namaha. So, when we are approaching the Supreme Lord, let us understand these two dimensions of his qualities. One is the merciful nature, which means we are begging from him something which we are not deserving. The second is we are conscious of the fact that he has given us something which we never asked for. We didn't even know to ask for it. That is the munificence of the Lord. So I'll stop with this here today. There's Arjuna's, if you have to remember one thing, Arjuna is begging for mercy from the Lord. He is glorifying the Lord as a person who is all merciful and who can extinguish the blazing fire of material existence in all these verses. And particularly in today's verse, the Lord, even though he is not in touch with the material, he is above the control of material energy, still he comes down and offers this path of liberation to all those who are caught in the clutches of illusory energy of the Lord. So I'll stop here and see if you have any questions, comments.
Hare Krishna, bro.
Yes, Prabhu.
Thanks for a good class, bro.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
So there's always a gap, Prabhu, between theory of Krishna consciousness, that puja, pratishtha, and implementation, when it comes to implementation. So it's like a gap, and many times even it becomes difficult, that part, like puja, pratishtha, everybody should glorify me, everybody should adore me. That is there in the subtle way inside.
Yes. But it's clear. It's audible, I think, inside. To be audible in the
So
online.
how do I take a step so that I reduce that, or try to come to the level of that Krishna Prema, try to level that?
So there are two parts here. The first you are saying is that yes, I hear that theoretically I must overcome these impurities, and yet I feel like I'm not making progress in being able to overcome those impurities. So what is the way out? So if you see these verses that we have been discussing, from the light of these verses and what we have been discussing so far, first thing is the recognition that I will never be worthy on my own. I will never be worthy on my own. Unless I get the mercy of the Lord, it is difficult for me to make progress. Guru Krishna Kripa Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. This Kripa, the mercy of the Lord, is something we have to beg for. So if that's where the awareness of our fallen condition is a first step. Now this awareness, sometimes it is there, sometimes it is not there, and that is where hearing Krishna Katha repeatedly and being in association of devotees and Vaishnava culture, etiquette, becomes extremely important. When we observe etiquette, one of the etiquette rules is to not belabor or to not verbalize and not contemplate upon shortcomings of others. Because we are having such severe shortcomings in ourselves that really there is no, we have no right to be focusing on the shortcomings of others. And yet our nature is to contemplate upon the shortcomings of others. Some of us are able to not verbalize it and just, okay, keep it in our mind. Some of us verbalize it and that becomes worse. But that is a very important part. So the culture of being inwardly critical, habit of being inwardly critical, helps us more in staying humble, and that helps us in praying for the mercy of the Lord when we are actually doing japa. Because if we are not inwardly critical, then one become inwardly proud, because we are then naturally become critical of others. So this awareness that I'm actually deeply in Maya Mohita Chetasaha state, that has to be with us every moment, even though it is there. It is not that just by awareness it goes away, right? I'm aware that I just went out, let's say I'm doing some construction activity, and I don't do like that, but just assuming, imaginary world, I'm doing some, sawing of a wood or something, all over me something will be there. I did other day, I did long back, spray painting, all dhoti, everything became spray paint. I am aware, oh, dhoti spray paint is there. Does it mean it will become clean? No. Awareness does not make it clean. But awareness means that you are now ready to take steps to make it clean. Correct? So that awareness that our heart has got all these things should be there. And that observation of ourselves also helps us have a background thread to watch out for that. For example, you've been told that today there is a lot of ice on this road. Be careful when you're walking. Right? Sometimes we see that, right? There's icy. There is rain. There is suddenly that becomes extremely cold. And before you know it, all ice everywhere. And you can't even see it because black ice. Tar road is black. Ice is black. I mean, it becomes the same transparent. You cannot see it. But somebody tells you, please be careful. What will you do? Every step you will be careful. Is there ice here? No, let me keep the step. Is there ice here? No, let me keep the step. And then keep gently, oh, there is ice, withdraw. There is a observation of our activity when we understand that there is danger. Similarly, in our own execution of all our activities, one of the things that Prabhu had explained on what challenges we face was the counteraction to that was having a spiritual purpose behind all our activities, right? So normally the activities we perform, sometimes not everything has a spiritual purpose. Not everything has. Even though we know theoretically it should be there, but at that moment, it is like purposeless actually. It is just that I have to do it, I'm doing it. But because it's not mindfully done with a spiritual purpose, not like proactively we are not doing it with a spiritual purpose, because of that, the other Maya Mohita Chaha, they become dominant. And unknowing to us, those ice, we slip on the ice because we are not watchful. So every step that we take, we have to be watchful, and we have to be aware that this condition is there. And when we are chanting, we have to beg for the mercy. So I would say that these three things, if we do, we would be able to make more rapid progress. Does that satisfy? Any other questions? Yes, Mataji, please take the mic.
So, Prabhu, what is the difference between grihastha, grihavrata and dharma? Because many times we see as a grihastha, we are forced to take up grihavrata, or there is an expectation to become a grihavrata by saying that, that is your dharma. So, I feel like there is a thin line in between these. So, can you please explain that?
Sure. See, grihavrata, it does not mean executing one's duties in the household life. That is not the meaning of grihavrata. Grihavrata means seeking enjoyment in family life. The desire to seek enjoyment. In my life, I am going to be happy because I am married and I have children. If somebody doesn't get married, he is going to suffer his whole life. This notion that we have, a married person, of course, marriage gives a person discipline, no doubt. Why? Because it is done under it is a samskara, right? When a marriage is taken, oath is taken in front of Agni. But that oath we have forgotten. The actual oath that is taken is, the husband takes the oath that I will guide this family towards liberation. And the wife is taking the oath that I will follow my husband and cooperate in the process of getting towards liberation. But that is forgotten. What is actually happening is, we have taken an oath to enjoy in the married life. That is the meaning of Grahavrata. Grahastha ashrama, the word ashrama, it means a Krishna conscious way of leading life in a householder life. That is the meaning of Grahastha. So Grahastha means leading a Krishna conscious household life. What does it mean? It means that it is not that because I'm married to you, you are married to me, we have children, because of this we are going to enjoy. No. It means that together we are going to cooperate in pleasing the Lord's senses, Krishna Indriya Priti. If a husband, wife and children cooperate with the only goal being Krishna Indriya Priti, that is called Grahastha life. See how far removed we are from that. Right? So we have been told that dharma means to execute one's duty in the household life. There is no problem with that. But what is that household life? Grahastha life, that is to please Krishna cooperatively. That is the meaning of that. Not that we are gratifying each other's senses. I pat on your back today, you pat on my back tomorrow, and we have this exchange of puja, pratishtha, and all of that. And one day you didn't pat my back, I'll become angry. Right, today you did not do your grahastha duty, you did not do. Right, grahastha duty is not meant for that. It is meant for pleasing Krishna. So our dharma, so grahastha life does not mean that we neglect household duties. But those household duties are not the means of enjoyment, rather they are duties for Krishna's enjoyment. That is that better? Clear? Any other questions? We'll have to go back to the recording. I don't know, sorry. Mercy definition. Yeah, when mercy is something that is when the Supreme Lord is taking away your suffering, even though you're not worthy of that. Actually, you're eligible to suffer. Why? Because of so many sinful activities. Because of our Maya Mohita Chetasaha state, we are continuously committing sin. And what is sin? Forgetting Krishna is sin. Any activity we do in absent-mindedly, not for the purpose of pleasing Krishna, is a sin. So just imagine how much sin we are committing. Throughout the day, practically it is sin only, because it's not like we are doing everything to please Krishna, right? So the whole day we are committing sin. And still, Krishna is mercifully coming down and giving us a path for liberation. This is called mercy. Kripaya. Kripa. Daya. Ha Prabhu karo daya. Karo. So that is mercy. Is that clear? And just to clarify it, Prabhupada says causeless mercy. It is just to further, actually mercy itself is that, but just so you understand that mercy is not that you deserve it. It is undeserving. It is of no reason. Just like causeless mercy. It's called causeless mercy. We'll stop here. Grantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jagat Guru Shila Prabhupada ki.